Here is every short from the Hbomb Shorts channel. Now, a lot of them are outdated as I made the channel back when shorts first came out, and they used to clog your feed if you published them alongside of normal videos, but I wanted them to live on here on this channel. So I hope you enjoy. Final ruling for which is better, right or left-handed boomerangs. On top are the right-handed boys, and on bottom are the lefties, and they are taking down a BFB. And the boys up top beat the lefties by about 1/10 of a second. This is how you can make the Vengeful True Sun God in BTD 6. Some things you need first is there can only be one monkey knowledge point, and this cannot be done in sandbox mode. But to start, we will get a 300 Sun avatar and sacrifice $50,000 worth of monkeys to it in 3 of the 4 types to the Sun Temple upgrade. These types being primary, military, magic, and support, and for this example, I excluded support monkeys, but you can exclude whichever one you want. Then we'll place down a 050 and a 005 Super Monkey outside of the Sun Temple's range. And finally, we'll do another round of sacrificing, but this time it has to be 50 grand worth of monkeys in all 4 types. Upgrading your Sun Temple to a True Sun God will sacrifice all the monkeys in its range, and if you did it right, there will be a second animation of absorbing the other 2 tier 5 Super Monkeys to create the Vengeful True Sun God. This thing is incredibly powerful, and you should upgrade it to a 520 to get that extra range. The Elite Defender's crosspaths are interesting as the better choices change throughout the years. Starting with the 005 Sniper, he shoots incredibly fast and shoots even faster the further balloons get along the track. The problem is that he can only damage 1 balloon at a time and only deals 2 damage per shot with a little bonus to mobs. Make this guy a 205 and each shot now does 7 damage to balloons and 11 to blimps. This makes it a great option for single target mob damage, all for a pretty low cost. Compare this to 025 that gains shrapnel on all of its attacks. This makes it much better at handling grouped balloons, especially when paired with an alchemist, but its biggest problem is that the elite sniper is simply better at this job and they cost about the same. Because of this, the 205 is now the better crosspath as the elite defender specializes in global range single target damage, which is useful for boss events and the mid game of Impoppable and Chimps runs. The Glaive Lord's crosspaths are fun because they're surprisingly even. Starting with the base monkey, the 500 Boomerang's main attack deals 8 damage, gets extra damage to ceramics, and applies a massive damage over time effect to mob class balloons. On top of this, he has orbiting rangs that deal 2 damage to balloons that touch them, with bonuses to ceramics and fortified ones. Now, upgrading this guy to a 520 increases its attack speed by 78%, while making it a 502 increases its damage by 1 and allows it to pop lead and frozen balloons. These 2 crosspaths do very similar amounts of damage and will both mop the floor with super ceramics, even if they are fortified, but there's one thing that can set them apart, and that is the damage over time effect. This only gets applied to the first blimp that it hits, so if you put your Glaive Lord on close targeting and make it a 520, it'll do significantly more damage on blimp heavy rounds like 96 and 98. But because there are only a few of these rounds and its previous upgrade is better as a 402, most Glaive Lords are made as 502s. This might be the hardest challenge I've ever made. You only get 1 ninja, 1 life, and you somehow have to pop these crazy strong ceramics. And the only way to beat this is with a little known trick. Now I'll give you 3 seconds to swipe off if you don't want to see the answer, but this is how you do it. You need to start with a sticky bomb ninja on the bottom of the track and upgrade it to a master bomber right before the mob blows up. This way the master bomber will stick a ceramic, then flash bomb the first 3 ceramics to make them all group up again, and the bomb will pop them all. Monkeynomics is a funny one because the worst crosspath is usually purchased. You see, the 050 farm works just like a banana bank as it makes 230 bucks and gains 15% interest each round. But the reason that this guy deserves to be a tier 5 farm is because he has an ability that generates 10 grand and it's only on a 60-second cooldown. Now, neither crosspath affects this ability, but upgrading it to a 250 increases its production to $310 per round, while making it a 052 lets it auto-collect the money once it's full, while also increasing its sellback rate by 10%. Now, it's clear that the 250 will make you more money, and it is the better crosspath in most scenarios. But because this ability is what generates most of its money, it is common practice to make him a 052 so you don't have to worry about collecting from it. Additionally, it provides more flexibility as that increased sellback is nice if you ever need to sell it to afford more defenses in cases like boss events. I get a lot of questions about god buffing towers, so here's how you do it. First, we'll start with any tower you want to buff. I chose a 025 bomb shooter for this one. Then we'll get a Sun God that has max support buffs, so just sacrifice 50k or more in support towers each time. Then we'll get a primary expertise village, a homeland defense village, and a call to arms village. The primary expertise is only necessary if your tower that you're god buffing is a primary monkey. Then we'll get a perma alchemist, an ultra boost engineer, and 2 overclock engineers. With these, we'll ultra boost the tower 10 times to get that passive buff, and then we'll rotate between the engineers' active ability to keep 100% uptime on overclock. You'll also want to keep this ability rotation with the villages so you have 100% uptime in that as well. Then you should be good to go, and if you want, you can add in Pat Fusty for that extra 3 damage when his ability is active, or if it's a water monkey, you can throw in a carrier flagship. But even without those, our bomb blitz is able to handle 20 fortified bads no problem. The first weird interaction is with the door gunner and ice monkey. If you make an Arctic Wind the door gunner to a heli pilot, you can freeze water all over the map and place towers on it. This even allows you to place an ice monkey on its own ice, creating a little island. Just be careful not to fly the ice monkey away, as this will sell all the towers on its ice. The second is between the dart paragon and the free dart monkey. If you make an apex plasma master with your first 4 dart monkeys and you have the free dart monkey knowledge, then you will get a degree 30 paragon instead of a degree 19. Just make sure to upgrade the 4th dart monkey into the paragon and you should be good to go. The final weird interaction is between the sun temple sacrifices and an ice monkey. If you're sacrificing monkeys that are on an ice platform and you also sacrifice that ice monkey, then you will get all of the sacrifices plus the amount of money that you would have gotten from selling all the monkeys that were on the ice. This is because the game automatically sells any monkey that's on the ice when the Arctic Wind disappears, and we can take advantage of this by getting some cheap VTSGs. Here is an updated, easiest 2 tower chimps guide. We're going to start with a wizard, upgrade it to a 020 wall of fire, and then make it a 021. After that, we'll get a dartling gunner, lock it to aiming at the start of the track, and upgrade it to a 120. Next, we will get the wizard all the way to a 024 necromancer, and then upgrade the dartling to a 320. At this point, you'll want to aim the dartling down to ensure that the wizard's graveyard is always full. Then get the wizard to a 025 Prince of Darkness, and the dartling to a 420. Once you get to around 85, you can aim the dartling at the beginning of the track to help out more, now that the balloons will get to the necromancer no matter what. This will handle all the way to around 92, where you'll want to manually aim the dartling at the blimps until you can afford the Ray of Doom upgrade on round 94. At this point, you can lock it to shooting at the start of the track and enjoy a free 2TC win. I was just curious to see the difference between 100 crossbows and 100 triple shots when facing a ZOMG. Now, the crossbows do cost 25% more, so they should do better, but wow, was that an absolute blowout. The Bez is an easy one when it comes to crosspaths. Making this Dartling Gunner a 205 makes its buckshot spread much tighter as it reduces the projectile deviation by 60%. Additionally, this path increases the projectile lifespan of the buckshot by 40% and gives it the laser shock status effect. Compare this to the 025 that increases its attack speed by 50% as well as letting it see camo balloons. Luckily, this massive DPS increase is more than enough to make up for the worse accuracy, making the 025 Bez better in almost every scenario. The Mad is one of the best mob killers in Bloons, and we are going to cover which crosspath you should be going. To start, the 050 Dartling Gunner shoots very large missiles every 0.4 seconds. These missiles explode up to 6 times, have 12 pierce, deal 3 damage to balloons, and an extra 550 damage to mobs. On top of this, its Rocket Storm ability now fires 19 waves of missiles over 9 seconds, with 0.467 seconds between each wave. Now upgrading this guy to a 250 gives it much better accuracy for both its main attack and ability, plus it gives some extra damage from laser shock. Now any balloon hit by the Mad's missile will get an electric shock effect that makes it take 1 damage a second later, and take +1 damage from any Dartling Gunner with this upgrade. Compare this to the 052, which lets the Mad rotate twice as fast and gives +1 explosion to each missile and +2 pierce for each explosion. On paper, this sounds much better as it is just more pierce and explosions than the other path, but unfortunately, this is one of those times that the lame crosspath wins in that the increased accuracy is needed for hitting specific targets and getting the most out of its ability. So, in both BTD 6 and Battles 2, you should be going 250 Dartling Gunners if you are fortunate enough to be able to afford a Mad. The biggest one is interesting as its crosspaths do 2 completely different things. In short, the 500 Mortar Monkey shoots giant bombs anywhere on the map that do tons of damage and stuns anything up to ZOMGs for a short period of time. Now, upgrading this guy to a 520 increases its attack speed by about 85%, making it stun much more reliable as well as making it easier to micro as it attacks more often. Compare this to the 502, which adds a burn damage over time effect that can easily double if not triple its damage output. This burn shreds mob class balloons and super ceramics alike. In fact, 1 shot from this guy will destroy super ceramics, whereas it takes 3 shots from the 520. So this decision comes down to what you need. If you want more damage, go with the 502, but if you want a more reliable stun, go with the 520. As for what I like, I almost always go with the 502 as its damage is insane, and let's be honest, there are much cheaper ways to slow down the balloons than a tier 5 Mortar Monkey.
There is a new farming glitch in BTD6 and it is incredibly broken. What you need is a previous Monkeyopolis that you'd get normally. For this, I like to have a 2-farm Monkeyopolis as we know that is crazy efficient and you should be getting it anyway. Then we will set up our new large Monkeyopolis close by. This new one can be as big as you want, but if you're beating the boss, it should consist of 10 plus farms. So to pull off this glitch, we will place down the monkey village that will become the final large Monkeyopolis, and the only thing you have to make sure of is that this new village is in range of the first Monkeyopolis. Then we will get this village to a 104, sell the old Monkeyopolis, place down another 104 village where the old Monkeyopolis used to be, and then upgrade our final village to a Monkeyopolis. You can see here that this upgrade only cost me 5 grand when it should be a 50 grand upgrade since I sacrificed 10 farms. And the best part is that it still produces the same amount of cash that it normally would. This is incredibly useful for bosses, especially the ranked variety, as this fire sale on the Monkeyopolis will let you spend your money elsewhere.
ETN has 3 targeting options and we're going to explain which one is best. Initially, ETN will only be able to target first, which is exactly what it sounds like. All of ETN's drones will shoot at the balloon that's closest to the exit. This changes at level 7 where he unlocks Divide and Conquer. ETN will automatically switch to this targeting and his drones will split up. The first and fourth drone will be on first targeting while the second and third drone will be set to strong. This targeting has its perks, but in general you'll want to put ETN back on first at level 7. Finally, at level 11, ETN unlocks Zone Defense and will automatically be switched to this as well. This one is much cooler as his first drone will be set to first, his second to strong, his third to last, and his fourth to close. Additionally, you can see what each individual drone is targeting as they'll change color based on what they're set to. Blue means first, yellow is strong, green is last, and purple means close. Unfortunately, Zone Defense is the worst of the bunch, with Divide and Conquer and first being much closer, but in general you'll want to keep ETN on first for the best results. The VTSG has 2 crosspathing decisions that you need to know. First, you have the choice of making it a 520 or a 502. Making it a 520 will increase its range dramatically, while upgrading it to a 502 will give it knockback and camo detection. Because it is a late game tower that is mainly used for bad and boss defense, the extra range is much better as you always want this thing attacking, plus bads and bosses can't be slowed down with its knockback. The second decision is what sacrifices to make, and it is best to make it a 2122, which means sacrificing more than $50,000 worth of primary, magic, and support monkeys to the Sun Temple, and 50k of all 4 types of monkeys to the true Sun God. This will maximize its damage and give you a huge support buff to all the towers in its range. This is how you do the infinite Paragon glitch. First, you need the option to build a Paragon, meaning you need 3 tier 5s of certain monkeys. None of these monkeys should be crosspathed or your game will crash when you attempt the glitch. Once you have these tier 5s, get the monkey you want to become a Paragon and make it to a tier 5 as well, also without a crosspath. Then select any of the tier 5s that can be built into the Paragon. You want to click the Upgrade to Paragon button slightly after selecting the tier 5 monkey that you want to become the Paragon. The timing is tight, but if you click the Upgrade button about a quarter of a second after selecting the new monkey, you will see the Upgrade to Paragon screen and have the new monkey selected in the background. Now this will take a few attempts, but 2 cool things you can do are get a bunch of level 30 Apex Plasma Masters or a ton of Navark of the Seas. The Crossbow Master is one of the most popular tier 5s in the game and is a solid option for mid-game DPS, but what crosspath you should be getting is what we're covering today. To start, the 005 Crossbow Master shoots a bolt every 0.16 seconds that do 6 damage and have 10 pierce. On top of this, the bolts can pop leads and gain the ability to crit. Crits happen every 4 to 8 attacks, and they boost that bolt's damage up to 50, and since this guy has a high attack speed, this is pretty consistent damage. Now upgrading this guy to a 205 increases his pierce from 10 all the way to 23. This 130% increase in pierce is crazy strong and allows it to handle rounds like 63 and 78 much easier, especially when put on a straight line to use as much of its pierce as possible. Compare this to the 025, which increases its attack speed by 50%. This makes its crits extremely reliable and gives it much better single target damage, allowing it to pop ZOMGs all by itself on easier maps. Because of this, the 025 is the preferred crosspath as it outperforms the 205 in most scenarios, with the exception being on rounds with super dense packs of balloons. Which crosspath should you be going on your Avatar of Wrath? To start, it should be stated that Avatar of Wrath should always be paired with 5 Pop West Druids, as that increases their pierce and attack speed by 75%. Additionally, the Avatar does more damage the more RBE is on screen, which means the higher the collective health of the balloons on screen is, the more damage it'll do. Now, upgrading it to a 205 will increase each Thorn's pierce from 1 to 2, make it able to pop lead and frozen balloons, and give it a new lightning attack. Compare this to the 025 that increases how many Thorns it shoots from 5 to 8, and its attacks now strip regrow properties from balloons. Now, the choice here is pretty simple. If you're able to buff the Avatar of Wrath with monkeys like an Alchemist, Oben, and or Gwen, then go with a 025 as these extra projectiles synergize with these buffs much more. If you're unable to buff the Avatar for some reason, then go with a 205 as that double pierce and lightning attack will still do work.
Spiked Balls is a great mid-game tower, but how should you be cross-pathing it? Well, a 300 spec tree places a spiked ball down every 1.75 seconds, and upgrading it to a 320 makes it lay down spalls 1.79 times faster. Compare this to the 302 that increases the lifespan of each ball by 50 seconds, gives us targeting options, and makes the spec tree attack 4 times faster for the first 2.5 seconds of every round. To save us all from scary math, here's a graph that shows how many spalls each crosspath puts down over time. As we can see, the 320 will outpace the 302 in most scenarios, especially since there are only 2 rounds in the first 100 that take over 82 seconds to spawn all the balloons. But how long it takes to spawn the balloons and how long it takes them to get to the end of the track are 2 completely different times. So here's the takeaway. If you're on a more difficult map that has several tracks, go with the 302 as the smart targeting will be a lifesaver. But if you're on a long, easy map that only has 1 track, going with a 320 will do you wonders. There is one caveat to this though. If you have any sort of stalling that will extend the rounds past the 82-second equilibrium mark, go with a 302 as those long life spalls will come in clutch. The test balloon is not invincible, and technically any tower but the banana farm can pop it, but only a select few towers can insta-kill this beefy guy. The first way to do this is with the Druid of the Jungle, as its vine will grab and pop it just like any other balloon. Then we have Psy, whose Psionic Scream and Normal Attack both shake the balloon and make it disappear after a bit. Next, we have 2 abilities that trigger when a balloon leaks, and those are the Legend of the Night and Bomb Blitz, as both of these will pop it. Then we have Opens Wall of Trees and Engineer's Traps, as both of these will capture the test balloons, but it does fill up their traps completely. And the coolest way to pop this guy is with the Bloon Master Alchemist, as he'll turn it into a red balloon before finishing it off. Now this isn't valuable on its own, but it does explain why the test balloon sometimes disappears when you're testing towers.
How far can a level 100 Master Builder get on its own? Well, I got it on around 125, where it was insta-killing everything even before its overclock stacked up. This continued until the 180s, where bads started getting pretty far, but the ZOMGs and DDTs still didn't move much. And it was on around 200 where we lost, as the fortified bads just took too long to break.
I was just trying to get the avatar of Raph when he all-outed me.
Guys, I don't know. I need help. How do I do this?
Handle it.
BFB is BEEEF. We can handle it, right, boys? This is a non-issue. You'll better get a 302 Druid. All right, we will after we get the Batman Tower. Maybe. Maybe that's a throw. This is the worst trees I've ever seen. Or was it? Oh my goodness, we defended that? I'm kind of cracked.
The Elite Sniper is one of the best mid-game towers for countering group ceramics, but its crosspaths serve 2 different purposes that we are going to cover today. To start, the 050 Sniper has camo detection, a bullet that hits up to 4 balloons per shot, shrapnel that sprays with every hit, an ability that provides 3 grand every 90 seconds, and a plus 150% attack speed buff. But the real magic happens when you crosspath it. You see, the 250 Sniper increases its bullet damage from 2 to 7 and its shrapnel damage from 1 to 2. On top of this, it gains the ability to pop leads and frozen balloons, allowing it to solo round 63 on many maps. Compare this to the 052 crosspath, which makes it shoot 2.04 times faster. Now this is a smaller jump in DPS than the top crosspath, but we have learned that external buffs benefit faster attacking towers much more. And what better buff is there than the stronger Stimulant Alchemist? This guy provides several buffs, but the main one we are going to focus on is the +1 damage to all attacks, which gets applied to the bullet as well as the shrapnel. And when a 420 Alchemist is brought into the mix, the 052 Elite Sniper blows the 250 out of the water, and the best part is that one 420 Alchemist can keep up with an Elite Sniper. I finally made it to round 1000 and was able to take it down with the help of some Paragons and a VTSG. Now this run is from the March 8th Advanced Challenge where everything had less health and speed, but you were limited to only 9 monkeys and no heroes. The bads are only getting about a third of the way through the map right now, so I could probably make it a few hundred more rounds, but I might just call it here so I can grind the daily read achievement, and I kinda like having my highest round being a clean 1000. Using the total transformation glitch, we can make a preemptive strike submarine pop around 400 bad or even a test balloon in just a few seconds. We can also do this with a true sun god who at max power can take down round 500, but the screen gets a bit hectic when you do this. Gwen just got buffed to let you choose where she throws her cocktail, so make sure to choose crossroads that'll hit the most balloons possible. This will make tough rounds much easier as it reduces the RNG of her throw.
Okay, where do I want to put my free dart monkey? I love the...
You gotta use the free glue gunner. What are you doing?
We do you're right, my B. So, all right, I guess I'll put this free glue gunner up here, and that's all I got. Wait, but I don't have a free dart monkey? Wait, if you use the glue gunner, do you not get the dart monkey?
Yep, you get one or the other.
You just tricked me, bro. You just bro, I just got griefed, dude. Okay, I have to make sure you're the enemy. I can't listen to you, dude. You're up to some no good.
Ben is banned this week, so this is how to farm with Geraldo. We'll get Geraldo down on round 2 and buy his NFT on round 6. You only have a second or two to get it down before the next round starts, so be ready. After that, we'll rush a 200 farm. On round 19, we'll sell his NFT and upgrade our farm to a 230 and then place down a 100 farm right next to it. Next, we'll get a 002 village up and running, and on round 30, we'll collect our bank, get a 130 bank and a 023 marketplace, and then sell the village. If you're OCD, you can make the bank a 230, but that isn't needed. Next, we'll get a 014 Bloon Trap Engineer near the beginning of the track, a 202 Farm, and a 004 Buccaneer. This buck is for the increased sellback, and it should be able to reach all of your farms plus the Engineer. Then, on round 40, you can sell everything, and you should have $48,000 to $50,000 depending on how good your timings were. This will be more than enough to take down the Tier 1 boss and transition into boat farming, which should easily give you about $5 million to play with for the Tier 5 boss. We have our first Paragon Synergy in BTD 6. If you have a Navarch of the Seas and a Goliath Doomship, the Navarch will provide a buff making the Doomship attack about 18% faster. This is a very expensive combo, but it's definitely worth it for boss events. You can now get Degree 100 Paragons by yourself in BTD 6 by utilizing Geraldo's Paragon Totems. Each one adds power to the next Paragon created, so if you place enough of them, you can go all the way to a Degree 100 on your own, which officially makes him the best late game hero in the game. I leveled up Adora from 7 to 20 with one sacrifice. Now this is pretty tough to do because you need to sacrifice something worth $86,185 or more, but I wanted to see if you're allowed to do this with Geraldo's NFT in co-op mode. And it turns out you can, so for just the price of $635 and many rounds, I was able to pull off this huge sacrifice. This week's boss doesn't allow selling, but there is a way around this. If you build something on an Ice Monkey's platform and move the Ice Monkey, the game will sell whatever was on the water for you. This way you can get a Minneapolis early and build a bigger one later. Alright, we have Hot Shots and Tax Bearers taking on round 80. Hot Shots deal double damage compared to Tax Bearers, but Tax Bearers have 50% more projectiles, so we'll see which one of them can handle this ZOMG.
You should be using the 250 Ice Monkey. It's basically a global icicle impale, but it's 25% cheaper. Plus, there's a permafrost bug that keeps the mob class balloons very slow even after the ability wears off. This is super nice for DDTs, but also gives incredible amounts of support for rounds like 96 and 98, as you can slow the ZOMGs down to basically a halt. To start, her level 3 Heartstopper ability lasts longer, has a shorter cooldown, and removes purple balloon immunity for the duration. This is an incredible change, as Heartstopper was almost useless before, and I can already see it bailing me out of a guaranteed loss when the first purple starts showing up. Additionally, she can now target where to place her sacrificial totem, and the totem itself got buffed to give wizards a little more pierce and attack speed than the other towers in its range. The easiest way to get the ultimate team up achievement is to beat beginner maps on deflation. Just use the required monkeys and a hero of your choice and start grinding. I typically run Churchill, ETN, or Sada, but if you don't have those, Quincy will be just fine. And the reason we're choosing deflation is because it makes for some super fast AFKable runs. I mean, I'm grinding wins while editing this video. There is a bug where you can get a Monkeyopolis for much cheaper than normal, but no one really knew how it worked until now. I finally cracked the code on how to get this thing for only $5 grand 100% of the time, and it is super easy. The first thing that we'll need is an existing Monkeyopolis of any size. I always have a Miniopolis from earlier in my run that only has 2 banana research facilities sacrificed to it, as we know that makes for some extremely efficient farming. But once we have that, we'll set up our new huge Monkeyopolis that we want to get for only $5 grand. So get a Monkey City and surround it with 420 farms. After this, we will sell the Miniopolis and place down a new Monkey City. This new Monkey City can be placed anywhere, but we will only want one farm to be in its range. Once this is done, we can go back to the big Monkey City and you'll see that it only costs $5,000 to upgrade, and it will still produce the same amount of money as if we paid full price. Now this is where I cash in and get a super sale Monkeyopolis, but some weird stuff happens if you mess around with the new Monkey City, as both Monkeyopolis prices are dependent on the new one for some reason. Now there might be some more bugs to find with some experimenting, but for now, I'll take the cheap Monkeyopolis. Bloons TD 6 is currently on sale through October 31st on Steam, iOS, and Android. So if you've been looking to pick it up, this is a great time as it's rarely this cheap. Boat farming was the best way to make money in balloons, but is this still the case even after the recent nerf, and how much worse did it get? Well, the short answer is yes. Boat farming is still incredibly strong and will make you way more money than other farming methods, especially since alternatives like the Monkeyopolis were hit with their own nerfs. For how much worse it got, we can look at this chart right here to see what percent the new Trade Empire combinations make compared to pre-version 33.0. So if you have 20 Merchantmen and 1 Trade Empire, you'll be making about 85% of what you would have made in the past, but if you fully upgrade them to all flavored trades, you'll be making the same. This is because the Trade Empire buff to Merchantmen was reduced from $20 to $15, while the buff on flavored trades remains at 20. So the focus point of the nerf was to slow down the snowball effect of placing the Merchantmen and does not affect the max income that boats can make. To test this, I recreated the exact scenario from my boating guide of last patch and ended up with 86% of the money that we had back then, but it was still more than you'd need to take down around 60 boss.
I got a degree 100 Buccaneer Paragon on stream, and boy was it crazy. This thing was an absolute monster that shredded the mid 100s like it was nothing. But let's be honest, even a level 1 Buccaneer Paragon will do that. So what exactly was different about this behemoth? To start, the cannons and planes all had the same amount of projectiles as level 1 Paragon, but the attack speed and damage seemed a lot higher. We couldn't test exactly how much better it was due to the lag of co-op, but it was pretty obvious. Another standout was that the cooldown on the ability was much lower. Now you can still only use it twice per level, no matter the degree of the Paragon, but when I timed it, the cooldown on the degree 100 buck was 1.1 seconds faster than the degree 1 buck, and the lag was working against it, meaning the difference is even larger. On top of this, I tested outside the stream, and it seems like the passive pull cooldown decreases with levels as well. Now this makes sense, but the extra damage from the planes made it impossible to get the exact numbers. After this, we tested if we could buff the Paragon with external towers, and we found that the Energizer sub and Carrier flagship Buccaneer had no impact on the Paragon or its abilities, but the Homeland Defense's active ability increased the Paragon's planes attack speed by plus 100%. Now the planes aren't the strongest part of the Paragon, but that is still a ton of extra damage.
If you buy a 2XX and 3XX glue gunner, their glues will stack and both do damage. Just make sure the lower tier glue attacks first or this won't work. Half cash halves your income, but not the selling value, which makes it easy to pivot strategies and makes Geraldo's NFT very valuable. You can put an Ice Monkey down on its own ice platform if you place it straight down from being a door gunner inside a special operations helicopter. Lich does not eat the Sharpening Stone or Heated Up buff, meaning you can use these safely. Geraldo's Genie is affected by buffs like Jungle Drums and Homeland Defense, so keep this in mind for tough rounds like 98. There is a destroyed balloon shipper on Scrapyard, and upon further investigation, Ninja Kiwi had this to say about bringing it to BTD6 as a tower. The Bloon Shipper still does plenty of hard work in BTD5, battles, and Monkey City, and there were many things that we loved about it. Outside of that, we let Scrapyard speak for itself. 2D's team made me my own modded tower, and we're going to see how far it can get. The base tower is an ace, with the first upgrade being Thorn Swarm. I was hoping this would make it shoot 64 thorns per shot, but it just ended up replacing the projectiles. Then I farmed up a little bit and was able to afford the rest of the upgrades. Next was Airburst Darts, then Destroyer and Bloon Jitsu. This brought the total projectile count up to 40 per shot, made all the thorns split mid-air, and 5x its attack speed. This was doing pretty well and looked super cool, but the tier 5 is the best part. You've seen a Ray of Doom, maybe even a Mega Doom laser. But have you ever seen the Wall of Doom that moves? Apparently, all these upgrades were hard to make work together, so they just invented this epic monstrosity. Unfortunately, I couldn't control exactly where it flew, but this beast made it all the way to round 203 with me just letting it do its thing and very little micro. The big challenge is the rotating ceiling. Every round, the open square rotates clockwise, and the other 3 corners are off limits to the player. This means that you can't place, upgrade, or even select towers if they are beneath the glass. Luckily, the path is pretty long, there's only 1 track for the balloons to go on, and there's even some water. So if you're taking this thing on, I recommend Sai, ETN, or Sada, as the first 2 don't care about the large number of obstacles inside the garden, and Sada works well on corners that are all over the track. Then, if you want to place a sniper, you should put it on the bench to the left of the fountain, as that makes him tall enough to shoot just about the entire map. But if you want to cheese this gimmick altogether, you can always place an ace or helipilot to the very left side of the map outside of the garden. This way you will always have access to them for upgrading, and they fly low enough to the ground to fit inside this greenhouse, essentially making it a beginner map.
Come on. Boost one last time here. This is incredibly close. Come on. Balloon boost against. He's all outing DDTs. Another Sabo. Turbo damage laser bombs. Come on. Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. This is incredibly close. I think... Oh my god.
I got a degree 100 Buccaneer Paragon on stream, and boy was it crazy. This thing was an absolute monster that shredded the mid 100s like it was nothing. But let's be honest, even a level 1 Buccaneer Paragon will do that. So what exactly was different about this behemoth? To start, the cannons and planes all had the same amount of projectiles as level 1 Paragon, but the attack speed and damage seemed a lot higher. We couldn't test exactly how much better it was due to the lag of co-op, but it was pretty obvious. Another standout was that the cooldown on the ability was much lower. Now you can still only use it twice per level, no matter the degree of the Paragon, but when I timed it, the cooldown on the degree 100 buck was 1.1 seconds faster than the degree 1 buck, and the lag was working against it, meaning the difference is even larger. On top of this, I tested outside the stream, and it seems like the passive pull cooldown decreases with levels as well. Now this makes sense, but the extra damage from the planes made it impossible to get the exact numbers. After this, we tested if we could buff the Paragon with external towers, and we found that the Energizer sub and carrier flagship Buccaneer had no impact on the Paragon or its abilities, but the Homeland Defense's active ability increased the Paragon's plane's attack speed by plus 100%. Now the planes aren't the strongest part of the Paragon, but that is still a ton of extra damage.
With that, I'm going to go to bed, and I'm even going to give my computer a break because we have been doing this advanced challenge for like 28 hours. I mean, if you guys want to see this thing, look how fast the balloons are moving these days. All right, I'm going to bed. Good night. The Lich Soul currently scales with free play rounds, making it much harder to take down than normal, though this should be patched very soon. The extra range camo potion from Geraldo's shop can be used to make some huge Monkeyopolises, the biggest of which can be made on the challenge editor map Blons. Adora is getting her 3rd skin very soon, which will make half of the heroes in the game have 3. Ninja Kiwi will likely add a 3rd for every hero, so fingers crossed for Churchill getting his 3rd one soon. Sharpening Stone increased the damage of Spike Storms by a ton, which really helps out for ranked bosses.
The Inferno Ring is a great tier 5 tower, and we are going to cover which crosspath you should be going. To start, the 500 Inferno Ring has 3 different ways to deal damage. The first is the Fire Ring itself, which fires every 0.1 seconds, has 60 pierce, and deals 4 damage to balloons and 10 to mobs. The second is a Meteor that fires every 4 seconds and does 700 damage to the strongest balloon on screen. And the third is the Meteor's Explosion, which has 10 pierce, does 50 damage upon exploding, and starts the balloons on fire, dealing 50 more damage per second for 4 seconds. These 3 methods add up to make the Inferno Ring a real menace to balloons, but the crosspaths make it even better. Upgrading this guy to a 520 Inferno Ring gives it 8 more range and 20 more pierce, essentially allowing it to hurt more balloons and cover more of the track. Compare this to the 502, which gets 2 extra damage to balloons and 1 extra damage to mobs. The 502 is generally the better crosspath, as this extra damage increases its DPS at all times, and you typically place a tac shooter in a location where the extra range is not needed. That being said, if you are in a situation where the extra range is necessary, the 520 is a viable option, and technically it has a higher DPS ceiling with its increased pierce, though you will rarely be using all 80 of it.
The VTSG requires many sacrifices of over $50,000 to be made, so what are the best towers to sacrifice? Well, what I like to do is simple. Get a Mob Domination, Total Transformation, and an XXXL Trap for the Sun Temple. This will give it the 20% support temple discount, so the next round has to consist of more expensive towers like the Bloon Crush plus Snowstorm, the Mad, Permabrew, and Homeland Defense. All of these are super close to the 50k minimum and will allow you to make the VTSG.
I'm sorry, this has to be addressed. How did this become this, become this, become this? Huh?
I've seen some weird purchase orders recently, so here's the cheapest order to get 2 discount villages. Just get a 002 village and then get a second 002 village in the range of the first. Super simple and is useful for expensive monkeys like the Sun Avatar. One of the best strats right now is Geraldo and snipers, and this is how you do it. You can start off with whatever you'll like, and we'll use Geraldo's buffs to get through the early game and snipers to take care of the rest. So early on, spread the love with the sharpening stones as they are permanent buffs, use pickles for tough rounds, and the pile of nails as a last resort. On round 40, I like to use a spicy potion for a huge jump in damage, and then the overpowered shenanigans of snipers start. You want to get down a 202 village and a 032 bouncing bullet sniper. Buff this guy with a 301 elk and get down 2 more 032 snipers. Make sure to buff them all with sharpening stones, and then upgrade one of the snipers to a 052 and the alchemist to a 401. This should be around 63 and it will melt the balloons. Now all we will struggle with is mobs, and my favorite way to deal with them is to get 4 of Geraldo's bunnies and keep the track covered with his Amazo glue. Finally, you can seal the deal with another tier 5 tower. I typically lean towards the Sky Shredder as it works on most maps, but the choice is yours. Then wrap up the game with 2 genies on round 98 and slap down a ton of super maelstrom traps for round 100, and you just got an easy win. The IMF loan is confusing to learn, but can make you tons of money if used correctly. To start, it works exactly like the Banana Bank by producing money during each round and then gives you 15% interest at the end of every round. However, its limit gets increased to $10,000. Additionally, it gets an ability that will instantly give you $10,000, but you also get that same amount of debt that gets paid back by taking 50% of everything you make until it's fully paid off. So you are just getting this money early, which is always a good thing. You can use this money for defenses, or the more popular route is to reinvest this into banana farms, which will increase your farm. Finally, there is a bank deposit monkey knowledge point that allows you to put money into the IMF loan to get a head start on it gaining interest. Any money you put in will take 1 round before the interest kicks in, but after that it'll be like normal money in the bank. So the most effective way to use this is to hit deposit once and collect it 1 round before it maxes out, as this will award over $1,200 per round on average.
Well, I'm not. Oh, ho, ho, ho. I just got a legendary monkey.
If you put the spicy potion on a middle path boomerang monkey and activate its ability, the fire minion will shoot boomerangs incredibly fast, dealing tons of damage. Now this is a bug that will get patched soon, but it can be used for custom challenges or easy chimps wins in the meantime. 1-2 tree is full of new buffs that get unlocked over time and can make your towers much better. These buffs include +1 pierce, +1 damage, a 10% discount, and a +17.6% attack speed. Additionally, there are 2 spots at the top of the map that give +10% range, but it's difficult to use these spots effectively. One trick you can do, however, is Chinook a monkey around to all the buff locations, and it will keep them all, making for a super strong tower that could really help out in chimps or custom challenges.
The student loan achievement is new to BTD6 and can be done by getting $400,000 of debt in a single game, and doing so will award you 3 cash drops. The super easy way to do this is to play a beginner map with a ton of space on easy and go into free play. Then place down as many 042 farms as you can and use their ability whenever it is up. The nice thing of making them 042s is that they auto collect when full, so you don't have to micromanage your banks. But we are going to use this money to place down more and more farms until we finally hit 400k of debt, which comes sooner than you think. Just like real life. Anyway, you should finish the achievement when you have around 33 IMF loan banks, but this might change if you have monkey knowledge or not.
Glitches are made to be abused. Last one, so sad. Really is. We should have farmed harder. So last night I was on round 500 of the advanced challenge just to get some sapper percentage, and for fun I let it run overnight to see how far we could get. And I woke up to this madness of round 722. So far, the Navark of the Seas is in the damage lead with over 23 billion, but the VTSG is right behind it with 21 billion damage. It took over 8 hours for those 222 rounds to pass, but I'm going to let it run overnight again to see what happens.
The Sentry Champion, once known as the Sentry Paragon, is one of the cooler late game DPS options, and we're going to cover which crosspath you should go on this guy as they are a tad confusing. Beginning at the base, the 500 Sentry Champion places plasma sentries down every 6 seconds that each shoot 15 times per second with 5 pierce and 2 damage. On top of this, the sentries are able to pop frozen and lead balloons but can't pop camos or purples without external buffs. Then, after 25 seconds, the sentries will shut down and explode, dealing 100 damage with 50 pierce. When upgrading this guy, we'll focus on the buffs to the sentries as that is most of his damage. So, making him a 5/2/0 gives the sentries plus 1 damage to mob class and fortified balloons, which is huge as this is a late game tower. Pair this to the 502 crosspath that gives the sentries plus 1 pierce and the ability to pin balloons. The problem with this is that pin cannot affect ceramics, and since super ceramics form the majority of late game, the pin effect simply isn't worth it. So this one is pretty clear in that the better sentry champion is the 5/2/0, as that extra damage to blimps and fortified balloons is much better, as these make up most of the late game.
Higher degree paragons do way more damage, but I wanted to see just how big of a difference we can make with their extremes. So I had a degree 76 and a degree 1 Glaive Dominus take on the 5th tier of Dreadbloon so we can compare the times. The degree 76 destroyed Dreadbloon in just 17 seconds, while the other one took 1 minute and 25 seconds to pop him, meaning I had to speed up the footage to make it fit. Still impressive that the degree 1 could solo the rounds and the boss, but man did it take a while, and there's no way it would work on Elite.
A lot of you guys wanted a different map, so here we have the righties up top, the lefties down bottom, and they're both trying to pop a BFB. Now, neither group was able to pop everything, but the lefties leaked less, tying up the series 1-1.
How do lead balloons float? I mean, lead weighs a heck of a lot more than cast iron or steel, and that lead layer does not look thin, especially since it can stop bullets.
This map has ghostly flames that cut the map in half either vertically or horizontally. The flames switch back and forth every 2 rounds, and they act as obstacles that monkeys can't shoot through. Additionally, the mansion has very little room for monkeys, making it so large footprint towers like villages and super monkeys can't be placed unless you pay to remove the obstacle on top of one of the 2 dressers. Luckily, these only cost $250, and if you place a monkey up there, they're tall enough to see over every obstacle on the map, making it really good for snipers, just like the bench on Covered Garden. So how do we take this one down? Well, the consensus is pretty set that you should bring in Sada to start and then place down a tack shooter on the opposite side. Then we'll mix in a 130 Druid for global popping power and work our way towards an overdrive. Then, over on Sada's side, we'll get a 420 and a 052 sniper for some blimp stalling and global cleanup. From here, you'll be pretty set until the 80s, so work on getting a tier 5 tower 2 up and running. In general, attack zone and super brittle will work just fine, as it's the classic combo that works very well on this map. But if you don't want to go that route, I've seen people upgrade the Druid to a Spirit of the Forest, but there are really countless options that you can do. Just make sure to get some support like Mob Press Boomers and a Sabotage Ninja up, and you should be good to go. Bloons need some rebranding, so I thought I would start with these 3 monkeys. Number 1 is the Ray of Doom, which shall now be known as the Laser Pointer of Death. Number 2 is when you have 4 glue gunners, and they should be known as the Ghostbusters. And the final one is Alien, who is now known as the Little Green Man. Here's an update on the challenge run. We're on round 850 and the bads are getting about 1/3 of the way through the map, so hopefully we can hit our goal of beating round 1000. Unfortunately, we are at the tower limit, so this is all we've got, but in the damage lead is the Navark of the Seas sitting at 48 billion damage, and in second is the VTSG at 34 billion.
There is a bug with Unstable Concoction Alchemists in Battles 2 that lets you pop fortified ZOMGs pretty easily. If you didn't know, Unstable Concoction is supposed to coat MOAB class balloons with an explosive potion, and once that layer is popped, it explodes, dealing damage to the surrounding balloons. But what is happening right now is that this explosion is also affecting the layers underneath the ZOMG, often reducing everything down to pinks, but sometimes ceramics and a MOAB survive. This needs to be fixed, but in the meantime, here is how we can deal with it. The first thing to realize is that this lag is too much for some phones and potato PCs, so if your device can't handle it, then you should not be placing down X3X Alchemist just because it is meta right now. And if you see your opponent running one, then I'm sorry, but you cannot send ZOMGs his way even if you think it'll get through his defenses. Instead, you'll have to play for DDT rushes or some other form of victory. On the other hand, if your device can handle it and you are playing against randoms that are running these elks, then I recommend sending one fortified ZOMG just to test the waters, because the only downside is the loss of eco and money, and the upside is a free win. But that is why everyone has been running X3X Elks in Ceramic Crucible and above.
I had an AI draw a brand new monkey that could send balloons to another dimension, and this is what it came up with. It kind of looks like a cross between a wizard monkey and Hoopa, if you ask me. A great strategy with Geraldo revolves around him hitting level 20 on round 91. Here we'll be getting 6 Jerry's Fire Potions up and running for the rest of the game as they last 10 rounds. Though not the biggest damage dealers alone, they receive tower-specific buffs that make them much stronger than their price tag indicates. Some great partners for them are fully buffed Poplust Druids, Shinobi Ninjas, and of course a permacharge Boomerang. All 3 of these monkeys will give extra attack speed and pierce to the Fire Demon, making their damage output extremely high. Plus, we'll have a fully stocked shop to work with, so we still have a couple of genies and a few traps to place down whenever we're in trouble. This quick tip can save you quite a bit of money. Geraldo's NFT increases in price every round that you have him down, and because of this, you can end up chasing this collectible, spending way too much on it. But if you wait to place Geraldo until you can afford both him and the NFT, you can actually get it a few rounds early, saving you quite a bit of money early on. How far can a max level Ascended Shadow get on its own? Well, I got it around 132, where it insta-killed just about everything, even fortified bads. This continued until the 200s, where they started making it to the last pass, sometimes all the way to the NFT, and somehow dying at the last second. But it was on around 208 when a bad finally got through. Monkeys make no sense. A giant laser of death, a mortar repeatedly shooting nukes, and a literal god cannot pop a camo balloon. But if you just add some red wristbands to a dart monkey, he can see them just fine. Geraldo. Up left. Right there. Play. Let's go! Fast forward. There is a new hidden achievement in BTD6, and all you have to do is get 25,000 critical hits to complete it. The fastest way to do this is with the Robo Monkey, so I loaded up Monkey Meadow on easy and continued into free play. You can do this part however you want, but you should get some farms down so we can afford a bunch of super monkeys. So, one by one, we'll build 230 super monkeys and buff them with MIBs so they can pop every balloon. Once you fill out the main area with Robo Monkeys, you can upgrade them to Tech Terrors, as that will increase their Pierce by 2 and give them plus 25% attack speed.
I mean, just look at the ridiculous amount of crits per second that we're getting in free play, which allowed me to complete the achievement in one run, and I only played to round 142.
The Bloon Solver is a funny one because every new player assumes wrong. You see, the 500 glue gunner shoots 2 globs of glue per shot that splash on contact and can glue up to 6 bloons each. Upgrading it to a 520 increases each glob's pierce to 11, now allowing it to glue 22 bloons at once. The problem is that the splash radius is not that large, so this amount of pierce is rarely needed. Compare it to the 502 that makes the glue last 24 seconds instead of 11 and slows bloons down by 75% instead of 50, which is extremely useful against super ceramics and helpful versus blimps. Combine this with the fact that pierce is easy to get with villages and alchemists, and the 502 is actually the better crosspath in most scenarios. A few people have asked me if the elite sniper is worth it since it is about the same price as 2 supply drops or 5 bouncing bullet snipers. On a pure damage basis, the elite sniper does 2.5 times more damage than a supply drop sniper and about the same damage as 5 bouncing bullet snipers. However, the reason it is such a good buy is because it is much easier to keep buffed with an alchemist and its ability is better than 2 supply drops.
The Buccaneer Paragon just got added to BTD 6 and it is incredible. To start, it has 6 cannons that shoot 10 green darts and 4 rockets each. It also gets 3 fighter planes that shoot darts and anti-mob missiles globally. These 2 attacks alone were strong enough to defeat rounds 145 to 150, but that's not even the best part. It also gets a passive pull that one-shots mobs, BFBs, ZOMGs, and DDTs. This passive can pull in several blimps at once, and the cooldown on each pull is dependent on what type of blimp it ate. Now you may be bummed that it doesn't passively one-shot bads, but don't worry, it also has an ability that pulls in the strongest bloon on screen, including fortified bads, instantly popping them. This is the first ability for a Paragon and it lives up to the power we expected. Not only is it ridiculously strong, but the cooldown is also one of the shortest in the game. So if you tech bot this guy, he will definitely help out with late free play rounds where bads are almost impossible to pop. Finally, he does grant some cash generation at the end of each round, and there are 2 spots for towers to be placed on him, but they do not grant visibility over obstacles.
The Rare Quincy action figure can be used for more than just making you money. It can also be used to tactically place fire minions and even for line of sight for submarines. So you might want to put this guy near the front of the track the next time you get him. Right now, there's an advanced challenge that gives you tons of XP per hour. All you have to do is beat a very easy version of round 265, which takes about a minute and a half and awards 20,970 experience or 838,800 XP per hour. For this, all you need is a 205 plane, 220 village, 040 engineer, and a pair of 420 alchemists. Now this only lasts for a day, but just keep your eyes out for any challenge like this, as they seem to come around once every couple months. And this is a nice way to grind the Sapper achievement. I was looking for the cheapest way to pop the round 40 mob. I found that it was paying $460 for Sada on easy, and with Monkey Knowledge she comes in at level 3. Just use the ability twice and hit him with a few slashes and it makes for 1 cheap mob pop. How far can a max level Boomerang Paragon get on its own? Well, I got it on round 125 and it was absolutely clapping. I mean, look how fast it popped the round 140 fortified bad. Fast forward 29 rounds and we can see that the only thing that has a chance of getting through are the bads because it can basically permastall anything else. And it was round 183 when a bad's innards finally got through and ended the run.
The Glue Gunner got a massive buff in this last update, making him much better. We'll start with the top path in that the 4XX Bloon Liquefier got +1 damage over time to ceramics, making it do 2 damage every 0.1 seconds. This is nice as the main purpose of the Bloon Solver is to counter super ceramics, but this tier 4 always felt weak. On top of this, the 5XX got +1 damage over time to mobs, which is a nice little buff that'll help it compete with the 520 Mortar Monkey for the role of popping super ceramics and providing some general damage. But the middle path is where the big buffs come into play. The X4X Glue Strikes ability now makes lead balloons take sharp damage. This is huge as it means a 240 Glue Gunner can make DDTs and hopefully future lead bosses take damage from your average monkey. On top of this, Ninja Kiwi also made it so balloons glued from the ability now take 2 extra damage from attacks, which is the same as having a global Pat Fusty Roar. This is absolutely insane utility from a tower that only costs $9,250 on medium difficulty. This carries over onto the X5X Glue Storm, which is now a must-have in any boss run. That's all for this update, but Ninja Kiwi did mention reworking how Glue Gunners work together in future patches, so hopefully we see that soon. Chom Chom challenged me to beat chimps with a Comanche Commander and Super Glue. Now I knew he'd done this on Muddy Puddles, so I had to beat a similarly hard map to make this a challenge, thus Monkey Meadow was chosen. Now I knew that the mid-game would likely be the hardest part, so I chose ETN as my hero and did the classic Ninja Elk hero start. This got me into the 40s where I finally started my ComCom, and here I went basically straight for a 205 helipad with very little trouble. Then I moved on to our prize tower of the run, the Super Glue, and buffed them both with a MIB. To take this a step farther, I comboed it with some mob presses and MAME snipers to really stall out the rounds, and if I had more money, I would have gotten a Perma Spactory, but that would have been too easy. Anyway, I coasted through the 90s and got myself a Shattering Shells mortar right at the end to take me to round 100. This one turned out to be pretty easy, so let me know if you have a tower or combo that you'd like to see me win with. Dreadbloon's lead layer can be tricky, especially for the first tier of Elite, but there are 3 good ways to deal with it. The first is embrittlement. This is the cheapest and easiest option as this Ice Monkey's attack de-leads the boss for a short time while also making him take 1 extra damage. Be careful though, I've had a few runs where this didn't work and I'm not sure if it was a bug or if I was maxing out the embrittlement's pierce. Next, we have a 240 Glue Gunner. This is more expensive but accomplishes the same thing, plus you don't have to worry about pierce or range as it's a global ability. And finally, if you're paranoid about it, you can always get a MIB, though this is the only of the 3 options that does not make Dreadbloon take 1 extra damage from every attack. One quick tip is that you can collect your balloon traps early by repositioning them. You can then use this money to get an upgrade online earlier, which is super useful for farming or for tough rounds. Banks are an amazing way to farm, but how exactly do they work? Well, it's pretty simple. Each bank generates $230, $270, or $310 per round depending on the crosspath. Then, at the end of every round, you gain 15% interest on any money that you have in the bank. So, if you end a round with $100 in the bank, it'll increase it to $115. This will keep compounding until it reaches the max that a bank can hold, which is either $7,000 or $9,500 depending on your monkey knowledge. So, make sure to collect them when they're almost or completely full for max results. This week's Medium Odyssey is the fastest one you'll ever see, making it super easy to get a few achievements. All you have to do is beat round 59 4 different times with differing amounts of money. Now I like to start with a 502 Buccaneer, then move into a 025 Crossbow Master, next use a 023 Mortar and a 420 Boomerang, and finish it off with a 402 Wizard. Doing this, you can beat the Odyssey in about 2 minutes, which makes getting all the Odyssey achievements super easy. Elk placements matter if you want to get the most out of their potions. Stronger Stim and Berserker Brew will always target the monkeys closest to them and ignore monkeys that are currently brewed or recently received a brew. This recently brewed period is either 4 or 5 seconds depending on the Elk's crosspath. This is why you should make your Stronger Stim a 420 if you're only buffing 1 or 2 towers, and make it a 401 if you're buffing 3 or more. Acidic Mixture Dip, however, is thrown on a random monkey inside the Elk's range and gives priority to those without an AMD buff. You can take advantage of this by placing multiple 200 alchemists in positions where they can only buff 1 tower. This will ensure a 100% uptime of AMD, granting the tower permanent lead popping power and extra damage against ceramics and mob class balloons. Many players use this strategy to skip the Monkey Intelligence Bureau altogether, as AMD stacking can be a better alternative. For normal purposes though, it's best to position your alchemists next to your main damage dealers and keep other monkeys outside of their range if possible. Did you know that the Alchemist and Cave Monkey are the only 2 monkeys capable of popping every type of non-camo balloon without any upgrades? And the only heroes that can do this at level 1 are Brickle and Pat Fusty. Did you know that if you buff a Dart Monkey with a Top Path Village, it will keep the buffs even after you use Geraldo's Hero Cape on it? This means you can get a very strong Sun Avatar.
Oh my god! Oh my god.
Oben got a much needed buff that'll make him viable in many more scenarios. To start, he now gives Druid of the Jungles plus 20% range. This is nice, but it is more important to the tier 4 Jungles Bounty Druid as it brings them back to where they were before their recent nerf, allowing them to get more farms in their range, increasing their cast generation. Hbomb also buffs Druid of the Storms now by giving them plus 20% projectile radius and 1 extra mob damage. This is super nice as they're weak against mobs, and extra large tornadoes only sound bad to balloons. But the final 2 changes are where the real buffs are at. The first big one is that Wall of Trees now has a set target option. This is incredibly strong as it takes all the RNG out of this ability, meaning if you are on chimps, you can set the trees to the way back to clean up any stragglers, or if you're in other game modes, you can put the trees at the very front to get that nice plus 100% income. The second big change is that at level 12, Hbomb now makes all Magic Monkey's abilities cool down 5% faster. This will be very strong as the Magic Monkeys have great abilities, ranging from the sheer damage of the Wizard, Super, and Alchemist, to the slow of the Ninja, all the way to the cash generation of the Druid.
Geraldo the Mystic Shopkeeper is the newest hero getting added to Bloons. We know that he is a support hero with many different items in his shop, such as morphing bunnies, action figures that make you money, magic genie bottles, life potions, and glue bottles. But Ninja Kiwi likely hasn't released everything yet. Anyway, he is getting added with this next update, which should be in a week or so. How far can a degree 100 Dart Paragon get? Well, I got it on round 131, and it was absolutely destroying, until around 140 struck fear into my heart with its fortified bad. Then around 150, the bads got strong enough to make it just as far, and it was around 153 where the final ZOMG and the last bad got the best of us.
The Galaxily skin is the newest addition to Azili, and it makes her appearance change at levels 7, 10, 16, and 20, slowly turning her into a mystic rainbow of cosmic energy. On top of this, her abilities and attacks change appearance as well. Her main attack and Mob Hex change to images of moons, stars, galaxies, and X's, with Mob Hex being a brighter green than her normal attack. Then, her totem becomes this rainbow stick with wings and a star, and her Heartstopper aura becomes orange instead of purple when you activate it. These changes are pretty drastic, which probably makes this a polarizing skin, but I absolutely love it. Overall, I would put it S tier just behind Sushi Ben and Alien, and knocking Wolfpack Quincy out of the top 3. So if you have monkey money, I highly recommend it.
Bloons get faster and stronger as the rounds go on, so to show this, here is a round 100 bad, and here's a round 999 bad. Did you know that you can't get the Worn Heroes Cape in Primary Monkeys only, as the Super Monkey is not allowed? I'm hosting a live $5,000 charity tournament today with players like SJB, ISAP, Boltrix, and many more. Head over to youtube.com/Hbomb to check it out. Did you know that you can make a favorite trades Buccaneer a door gunner and get the extra 10% sellback on every tower by moving it around the map? This is a great way to save money on boss events.
Here's a huge tip for this week's boss event. If you place the Apex Plasma Master on the top platform of a carrier flagship, it'll be able to shoot over the walls, but also ricochet its bounces inside the inner portion. Now, I'm not sure if this is a bug or not, but it does allow it to damage Lich throughout the entire track, but also do crazy damage once he gets to the middle. Now, this will only help for the tier 3 through 5 once you can afford it, but it will handle Lich from there. Leads make no sense. Bullets can't puncture leads even though it's a soft metal, but don't worry, some foam can just wash it away. Foam. Are you kidding me? And don't even get me started on radiation popping it, even though lead is literally used to stop radiation in its tracks.
The Engineer was one of the most buffed towers in this last update, but it has been mostly overshadowed by Hbomb, the Spike Factory, and the new Paragon. But we are going to cover its changes today. To start, the Engineer's larger surface upgrade now allows Cleansing Foam and Bloon Trap to gain targeting, just like Hbomb's trees. Gone are the days of random foam placements and traps that get placed as close to the Engineer as possible. Now you can guarantee that foam gets placed at the beginning of the track, and you no longer have to place the Engineer in super awkward spots just to get the trap in the right location. Then, the huge buff to the Engineer is that its base price was reduced from $450 to $400, and that $50 got moved over to the 3XX Sprockets upgrade, which now costs $575. The reason this is so big is that you can now afford a Dart Monkey and Engineer at the start of a Chimps game. This is great because it lets you get sentry guns up and running super early, which can carry you through the teens on some maps. But this nice start will allow you to save up for a hero or bigger monkey very early, and it makes the total cost of overclocks and Bloon Traps a bit cheaper as well. So the Engineer got some nice buffs that made it a much better starting monkey, and Ninja Kiwi continued their trend of reducing RNG in the game.
You can get a Super Monkey for 40% off using Geraldo's Hero Cape on a Dart Monkey. This limits the transformed monkey to being a tier 3 Super Monkey or lower, but the decreased price is definitely worth it. Did you know that the Grand Saboteur's ability causes all incoming low-class Bloons to enter the track at 75% health, and this counts towards the ninja's damage? This is incredibly useful when getting the Ninja Paragon, as pops are the biggest limiting factor for these guys, and this lets the ninja deal massive amounts of damage before anything else can attack. This challenge will only be possible for the next few days, as you somehow have to pop a special bad with only an Engineer and a Spactory. Now I'll give you 3 seconds to pause if you don't want to see the answer, but this is how you do it. There is a bug that lets 032 Engineers slow down bads by 50% with their foam, and if spread out just right, it'll buy the 205 Spactory enough time to be able to solo the bad.
Here are my favorite ways to use the door gunner. The first is with the cave monkey. This is a map exclusive, but what is better than a global stun, especially when combined with the heli's downdraft. Next, we have picking up the monkey farmer and putting the heli pilot to patrol mode. This way, you can have one farmer collect bananas from all over the map. And the final one is picking up a favored trades buccaneer. This is probably the most useful of the group, as the buck will still make money inside the heli pilot, and it can now provide the extra sellback bonus from anywhere on the map. Cash generation is disabled in Chimps games, but the ability that many believe gets around this is Hbom's Wall of Trees. Now the confusion comes from the banana explosion that happens when the trees fill up, but let's run a quick test to put this to bed. We're going to compare a Chimps run with trees, a Chimps run without using trees, a No Monkey Knowledge hard run with trees, and a No Monkey Knowledge hard run without trees. After these runs, we can see that we end up with the same amount of money in both Chimps games and the hard run without trees, but we had more money in the hard game where we did use trees. The reason for this is that in Chimps, Wall of Trees rewards the same amount of money that you would have gotten from just popping the balloons, whereas outside of Chimps, they award plus 100% money. There's also a myth about trees making you lose money in Chimps, but the previous test already disproved this, and the only way to lose money with trees is to miss some bananas, or to exit to home and load back in when there are balloons in your trees. Both of these scenarios will cause you to miss out on some money, but that goes for every game mode. But the myth that open trees impact income in Chimps is totally busted. The last update brought us plenty of changes, but 3 additions really steal the show for me. The first is the new Sai skin Symbols, where Sai will slowly play more and more instruments telekinetically as they level up, until they're a full band jamming out while popping balloons. Definitely worth a buy if you have some extra monkey money lying around, as this skin has been a long time waiting. The second is the new Bad skin. I don't know how they did it, but this is somehow my favorite addition to the game since Bloonarius, and it's just turning the Bad into a purple whale. Just look at this majestic beast as it swims down the track while you slowly beat it to a pulp. Easily worth the 100 trophies, just don't call PETA. And the final one is the ETN beam down place and upgrade animation. I haven't been too impressed with these in the past, but I am in love with this one, officially making me run the alien skin even though the base skin has a Roomba cat. Here is part 2 of round 1000. Scrapyard has a free trap that will stun and pop balloons. This makes it one of 4 maps that have balloon affecting traits, the other 3 being Lotus Island's Flowers, Workshop's Track, Extension and Slow, and Frozen Over's Cave Monkey. Ninja Kiwi just tweeted out a teaser for update 30.0, and right off the bat we can see that we're getting a new Nutcracker skin for Sai and a new map that looks like it's based off of Basalt Columns from Battles 2. These are both great and obvious, but the 2 icons in the bottom right have thrown me for a loop. I wanted to think that they were new Paragons, but since Ninja Kiwi said they're keeping this update small, I think they're either challenges or avatar pictures you can get from the trophy store. Either way, this one is coming soon, so expect it in the next week or so. Here's my tier list for tier 1 pets. Coming in at S tier is the ant. You love the bonus that it gives. If you see an ant, you take it. Beaver, I'll put solid B tier. It's nice when you sell it, gives some extra health to your other pets. Cricket is like a free B. You put it at the end of your lineup and it can give you some cheeky wins. And it pairs well with the horse. The duck used to be amazing. And since it's nerf, I've kind of struggled with it. I'm putting it C tier, kind of hard to use. Now the fish. The fish is an easy A. Great stats, plus if you upgrade it, it gives great boosts. The horse, I'll put B tier. It pairs really well with the cricket, and it gives you a nice little buff for the first time buy of your pets. Mosquito, I'm going to put A tier just because it counters the horse and cricket super hard. The otter, I'm going to put A tier, great buff upon buying it. And the pig, I have to put D tier. I skip a pig every single time, unless I get 3 of them right off the bat. Then I might take it.
Boys, update 1.06 is finally out for Battles 2 and it solves all of our problems. No more stacking multiple sticky bombs on one blimp, laser shock no longer stacks with itself, 230 Dartling gunners don't apply laser shock to everything the explosion hits, no more crashes when UFO bads are sent, Gwen's cocktail doesn't get extinguished by leads, frozens, and DDTs, and several other bugs were fixed in this update. Additionally, they made matches fairer by restricting high tier upgrades in lower arenas, so no longer will you lose in Yellow Stadium just because some XP farmer had tier 4 and 5 upgrades unlocked. And for you high trophy count players out there, docs will no longer appear in ZOMG Superdome or Hall of Masters games, as this was a highly requested change. On top of this, there were a few balance changes, with the most notable one being the sniper. Its supply drop ability got nerfed a bit, so it won't just completely destroy normal ecoing, and the main mob stun length got reduced, so sniper farmers can't just stall out fortified ZOMGs like they used to. Anyway, those are the big changes that stand out to me right away. It seems like the Dartling Ninja sniper meta is over, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
Do you think normal monkeys know about camo balloons but just can't see them? And do they think highly of monkeys that can pop camos? To take this a step farther, what do ninjas think when aces are constantly firing? Do they know that they fire at nothing, or do they think there are balloons that only aces can see?
Did you know that you could stall around with the regrows found inside a DDT? Just pop it with a permaspike and blow them back with a 032 heli pilot. Oh, I probably should have saved a little bit of money. Okay. It is getting a bit thin, I will say. The spalls looking thin. This is kind of epic. Let's go. Recursives are broken. If you buff a recursive cluster with a top path alchemist, you get some crazy results, as the bomb shooter will start recursiving twice, taking the total number of explosions on these shots from 73 to 137. And on top of this, the alchemist considers all of this to only be one attack, so it's super easy to keep 2 or 3 of these bomb shooters constantly stronger stimmed and acidic mixture dipped. Now, the reason this is so big is because the acidic mixture dip and stronger stimulant potions make each one of these explosions deal 1 extra damage to balloons and 2 extra damage to ceramics and mob class balloons. Combine this extra damage with the extra explosions, and you take the recursive cluster from being a mid-game option to being the single best tower for handling anything from regen rushes to fortified ZOMGs.
The Buccaneer Paragon will be coming to BTD6 with this next update. So, like the other Paragons, you will need to have one of each tier 5 boat and combine them to make it. Assuming it works like the others, it'll pull attributes from all tier 5s, so it should attack very fast with both darts and bombs, have planes that have global range, buff monkey aces and other Buccaneers, and make you some good money per round. It seems like it'll be the best Paragon so far, but it will have the limitation of needing to be placed on water. Anyway, Ninja Kiwi tweeted that this will be coming soon, and I could not be more excited. I would use this factory, but that would make Boltrix too happy. Plus, the current meta is so good that I might as well farm wins with it. Well, let's just take this, slap a funny picture of 2D on it, and make a part 3 of this series. I finally got to round 1000 on Bloons Pop, and this one really came down to the wire. But this round is so long that it took me 4 minutes to complete, so I had to split it into 2 parts. He doesn't even know how to handle this speed. He's never seen a true glue gunner. I guess I'm even gonna snag this. And watch this cut, boys. What do monkeys without camo detection think when ninjas or wizards decamo balloons? Are they freaked out because balloons are appearing out of nowhere? And are they mad at the other monkeys for spawning them? I tried out the Master Chief mod, and this thing is sick. He gets 4 different guns to use depending on what balloons he's going up against, and he can pop camos after level 4. Then, his first ability is to throw a sticky grenade at the strongest balloon on screen, dealing a ton of damage upon exploding, and his level 10 increases his attack speed, damage, and pierce of himself and any military monkey on screen. And arguably the coolest part about him is that he will auto-collect bananas from farms that are in his range. But if you think this looks cool and you are a Halo fan like me, I highly recommend trying it out. I wonder if Blowfish would side with the balloons because they both inflate, or if they would fight alongside monkeys because their spikes would be good for popping the balloons.
You're weak. I'm you.
Why don't balloons just float over spike piles and caltrops? I mean, they should only have to float a few feet off the ground to not hit them. You can get the 2 Megapops achievement in BTD6 by winning a Chimps game with 1 tower dealing over 2 million damage. Earning this achievement will reward 1 monkey boost and 1 time stop. To start, we'll load up Cubism on Chimps and place down an attack shooter and get it to a 203. Then we'll place down an elk and get him to a 300, and then we'll need some cheap camo detection, so we'll place down a 002 dart monkey near the end of the track so it doesn't steal any damage. After that, we'll get the elk to a 320, place down a 020 village for camo detection, and then upgrade the village to a 220 for extra attack speed. Next, we'll get the attack shooter to a 204, the village to a 420 primary mentoring village, and the elk to a 420 stronger stimulant. Then we'll place down a 030 village and save up to get the tack shooter to a 205 tack zone. After that, we'll place down a 023 glue gunner set to strong and save up some more for a 520 permabrew elk. Then we'll wrap up the run with 2040 ninjas and getting the village to a 040 as well. Then we just have to use the abilities on rounds 97 through 100, and you should win with the tack zone doing just over 2 million damage. There is a weird Paragon glitch in BTD6 that lets you get a level 30 Dart Paragon with no extra sacrifices or pops. All you need to do is get your 4 tier 5 Dart Monkeys and make the Paragon on whatever tier 5 you got last. On top of this, one of these tier 5s has to be your free Dart Monkey from the Monkey Knowledge Point. So here's an example to make things clear. I placed down 4 Dart Monkeys, the first of which is my free one. Then, in the order that I placed them down, I upgraded them to a Crossbow Master, PMFC, and an Ultra Juggernaut. Then I built the Paragon on the Jug, and if done right, we'll get a level 30 Dart Paragon instead of the normal level 19. What do you call a flying monkey? A hot air baboon. Who are we buying and selling these monkeys from? Here are my top 3 favorite map secrets and balloons. Number 3 is the Cave Monkey in Frozen Over. This one is a classic, but if you break him out, he'll pop and stun balloons for you at the beginning of the track. Number 2 is Rafine's Excalibur. If you click the sword 24 times, it'll pop 3 layers of the strongest balloon on the screen, and it can damage any type of balloon, but this is why chimps is possible on this map. And number 1 is Bloons. This map is the secret. The only way to get to it is in the challenge browser by hitting random many times until you see it, and then you can play on the shortest map in the game. But those are my top 3 favorite map secrets in BTD 6. Bloons Pop just came out a few days ago, and after already beating level 100, I can confidently say that Churchill is the best hero in the game. The reason being, if he is popping balloons, he will not disappear, meaning you can throw him at a super shallow angle and get him to pop thousands of balloons, which farms XP for your next heroes. In this clip, I threw him at a medium angle because the balloons were a third of the way down the screen, and I needed him to start popping them before he disappeared, but this Churchill still popped 3,977 balloons, allowing me to throw 8 more heroes after him. I often hold on to Churchill until I can use him on a large regrow farm like this, which allows him to pop thousands of balloons. The best part about Churchill isn't the fact that he can clear an entire screen by himself, but it's that he often pops enough balloons to give you the next 5 heroes, and every time you get a hero, you get an extra throw to use them. So, in this clip, my 1 Churchill led to 9 total heroes being used, giving me way more shots than I needed to beat the level. No other hero has this crazy, consistent upside, and because of that, Churchill is the best hero in Bloons Pop.
Here is my ranking for all the heroes in BTD 6. We'll start with Benjamin. Many of you guys know my love for this guy, and it gets him an easy S tier. His money-making abilities will get you easy medals for everything but chimps, deflation, and sometimes half cash. His Trojan horse makes round 40 super easy, he restores lives, and his level 10 makes rounds like 98 an absolute joke. Not to mention that he is up there with Geraldo for the best hero for bosses, as he makes early farming super easy. His only downsides are that he doesn't pop any balloons, his siphon funding loses you money in most scenarios, he's pretty expensive, and his biohack can lose you a game if timed incorrectly. Next up we have Zilly. Now she has some great perks like being able to one-shot bads level 20, having built-in camo and lead popping power, and she's very cheap. However, her low damage early game, medium XP gain which prevents her from hitting level 20 by around 100, her totem does not work on impoppable or chimps, and the fact that her level 3 ability is absolute trash prevents me from putting her any higher than C tier. Really, the only things saving her are her incredible free play potential and her synergy with Bomb Blitz, Elite Defender, and Bottom Path Druids. Plus, the Galaxy skin is pretty great. Here are my rankings for all the BTD 6 heroes, and next up we have Brickle. She has the obvious synergies with water monkeys as she gives them more pierce, she is nice for camo and lead popping power, and her megamind stacking is crazy strong when combined with stalling strats. The only problem with this is that she is much better in the challenge editor than normal runs because placing her megaminds and timing her abilities can be very tough. On top of this, she is limited to the water, and she levels up slowly, so I will slot her in the B tier. She's fun to use, but there are better heroes. Now let's move on to Geraldo, and what can't this guy do? Just about every item in his shop is crazy strong and cheap. I mean, Pickles adds damage for only 55 bucks, Sharpening Stone is a permanent buff, his Maelstrom traps and nails save runs, his shooty turrets have crazy pierce for how cheap they are, his glue is insane with 300 pierce, his action figure makes him great in every game mode that allows farming, especially bosses, he provides camo detection and extra range, the Spicy Potion makes rounds 37 through 55 easy, the bunnies make rounds 80 to 89 easy, and genies make rounds 90 to 100 easy. His Rejuvenation Potion makes for fast ranked boss times and super fun sniper farming, the Worn Hero Cape makes for super cheap sun avatars with better placements, and the Paragon Totems allow you to get degree 100 Paragons all by yourself. This guy is the entire package capable of replacing just about every hero. He has all this and he levels up super fast. What else do you need? He is easily the best hero right now, and you should be using him before he gets nerfed. Next up is Adora, and I feel bad for her for having to go right after Geraldo. She's the strongest free play hero in the game as her blood sacrifice buffs Sun Gods. Outside of that, she has seeking attacks, tons of projectiles at high levels, short ability cooldowns, lead popping power, large range, and synergizes well with an alchemist. On top of this, you can power level her through her blood sacrifice ability, but this requires a lot of money, and if you don't do this, she is very weak in the mid game and levels up super slowly. And if you do go deep into free play, she is very micro heavy because of her short cooldowns. With all this in mind, I'll put her low A tier. Churchill is next, and he is an interesting one to rank. He has amazing damage, pierce, can pop every type of balloon, and is an easy way to get to round 100 on deflation as both of his abilities are very strong. His downsides are that he is the most expensive hero in the game and he levels up incredibly slow. Because of this, he is difficult to work into a strategy early enough for him to get levels, so I'm going to slot him right behind Brickle in the bottom of B tier. Next, we have the Frenchie.
30 ETN. His obvious perks are global camo detection. His level 10 UCAV lets you save up absurd amounts of money in the mid game. He levels up reasonably fast and can shoot over obstacles. All of these are nice, but he is incredibly weak early game. He has low single target damage and he struggles against DDTs and bosses. So I'll put him just above Adora as he is useful in more situations. Gwen is up next, and boy was she tough to rank. Her level 3 destroys tough rounds as it is just a free wall of fire. She's great for races. Her passive heated up gives bonus damage, pierce, and lead popping power. She levels up fast. Her level 10 clears screens, and she synergizes great with the Tax Zone, Druids, and the Comanche Commander. All of this is great, but she's incredibly weak to purples, and her placement is tough because you need her up front so she activates the heated up ability, but you also need her touching the towers that you want to receive the buff. She is solid in many scenarios, but most of the time you can replace her with a better hero, so I'll put her in the high B tier. My man Pat Fusty is up next, and boy does he have some perks. His stuns and knockback make rounds 40 through 100 much easier. He naturally pops leads. His roar destroys any difficult round and reduces RNG on harder maps. He can place on water or land. His hug makes round 97 super easy. He synergizes great with stalling strats or Grandmaster ninjas, and he hits through obstacles. Unfortunately, he is not perfect as he has medium experience gain, low range, and no way to pop camos. Luckily, those are easy to work around, so he gets the S tier placement from me. Sai is a tricky one. The obvious pros are their global range, their pop animation stalls rounds for cooldowns, they ignore obstacles, they have huge damage even from level 1, and they destroy the late 90s once they hit level 16 or higher. But that is the difficulty. Sai levels up slowly, is pretty expensive, does not synergize with buffs like the Alchemist, and has very slow attack speed. Even with all these negatives, I'm still putting them in high A. They might belong in S as they are one of the best heroes for expert chimps games, but this is an all-around tier list, not just chimps. Quincy, everyone's favorite archer, is up next. He is incredibly cheap, levels up super fast, does good mob damage, his level 3 makes early rounds easy, and his level 10 can bail you out of a tricky spot. But he can't even damage DDTs on his own, and he really struggles against super ceramics, making him pretty bad after round 80. And because he provides almost no utility with a lack of damage late game, I'm putting him in C. Still useful in easier game modes, but what hero isn't useful down in double HP mobs? Sada is up, and man is she polarizing. Let's start with the pros. She has built-in camo detection, amazing damage, her level 3 can pop leads, her level 10 saves games, she is super cheap, requires absolutely no skill to use, and is incredibly well-rounded. That being said, her big downside is that she has very little range and no external utility, meaning that she is very map dependent and actually unusable on some maps. But the fact that someone can buy her as their first hero and use her to black border every single beginner, intermediate, and half of the advanced maps is absolutely absurd, especially since she is so easy to use. I mean, I plopped her down on downstream and managed to get to round 30 without spending any money outside of purchasing her. And if you can't win with that handicap, then you should watch some of my other videos as they'll help you out. But because of her incredible ease of use and a free 40 black borders, I'm putting her mid S tier. And finally, we are left with Striker Jones. If you're a longtime viewer, you'll know that I am not his biggest fan, but I will do my best to not be biased. His strengths are his fast leveling, low cooldown stun, incredible synergy with bomb shooters and mortars as he makes them stronger, black balloons weaker, and can refresh their abilities. His only real weaknesses are camos and limited strategy flexibility, but it is hard to knock the guy when he is at the center of the Mob Muller spamming strategy, which is the best strat in the game. And because of that, I'm putting him near the top of S tier. Rumor has it that someone drank a bottom path alchemist potion before and it turned them into a Midas monkey. He's still running around somewhere, turning everything he touches to gold, and I wonder if that's what's causing the golden balloons. Some heroes have nice, healthy morning routines, like Adora wakes up with the sun, does Pilates, and then has a healthy breakfast, and Oben goes for a walk with his guardians. Though, not all heroes are like this, as Benjamin is likely still awake from the night before. Back in BTD 1, 2, and 3, super monkeys did not need special goggles to shoot laser and plasma beams from their eyes, but in BTD 4 and up, they do. The reason for this is because super monkeys have gotten much stronger with time, and they need these goggles to help them contain this power. Additionally, the Plasma Blast upgrade does not give it a third eye. That third lens is just for flair. Dr. Monkey has many assistants to help him with experiments, and Gwen was originally one of them, but she kept blowing everything up. Thousands of monkeys send in their applications to try to become a hero, but only the best of the best can make it through the tough challenges to become one. Sanctuary is a place open to anyone who wants to stay, but mostly just monks choose to live there. Additionally, the statue is not that of Sai, nor is it a prophecy, and as far as we can tell, monkeys don't make or believe in prophecies. Monkeys have banana-flavored things like banana chewing gum and banana candy, however, they nailed the taste of it unlike us humans. Zada can simultaneously sword charge down multiple tracks using melee magic.
I wonder what else she can do with that. Striker Jones has been the hero the longest out of any in BTD6, and Sai is the newest, which makes sense considering they're so young. The monkeys on Dark Castle open up the gates when Bloons come, as they'd hate to have to replace the doors constantly. I mean, it would be a waste of time and money. When asked about a monkey devil, Ninja Kiwi said this: there are ancient writings of a hidden being that absorbs the sun's light and spreads darkness, but there is no modern evidence that has been found. Banana milkshakes are incredibly popular in the Bloons universe, but other flavors do exist. In fact, Pat and Gwen are always coming up with new flavors like Tabasco peppermint. Yuck. The Bloons could find a material stronger than lead to give them an advantage. I mean, Dreadbloon is onto something with those rocky boys, so let's just hope that he doesn't make any more improvements. Bloons do have feelings. For example, late game ZOMGs feel doomed when they see all the towers that are about to wipe them off the map. Geraldo doesn't permanently sell everything. In fact, he only gives out Hopsy, Flopsy, Button, and Dave out on loan. He would never give them up for keeps. Alchemists have tried to use Spikapults to launch their potions farther, but it was just one of the many experiments that have gone wrong in the testing grounds behind Dr. Monkey's lab. The crash Chinook and Bloody Puddles was just a little accident with a trainee pilot. No one was hurt, and they are now doing an excellent job. The monkeys in BTD6 are so battle-hardened that they barely even notice when you are spamming the air horn in co-op. So just keep blasting away as you won't annoy them. Most druids are old school and prefer to be technology-free, though some do keep up with the times and even have cell phones. Out of all the heroes, Ben has easily spent the most money on Steam, and he's in a library full of games that he doesn't even play. And out of every game, his favorite to play is PC Builder. The Mat is officially not a robot, it's just a monkey in an epic mecha suit. The sun avatar can see through those glowing sun beams like they're clear water, which is how they're able to shoot and see at the same time. Acidic mixture dip is basically equivalent to salsa in our world, but we're not supposed to tell the Bloons that. People on the subreddit love shipping heroes and drawing fan art, though one confirmed crush is that Striker Jones has some pretty strong feelings, though Ninja Kiwi won't tell us who or what he likes. Gwen's Firefox is called Mozilla, but most people just call her Sparky. Open Spirit Wolf is named Fluffy, and these two are good friends. The anti-Bloon is a technological masterpiece, and it took billions of monkey money and many years of research to develop it. The free Dart Monkey does not care when you just leave him unupgraded all game, as he's perfectly happy to just chill out and pop balloons. The engineer once tried to hit a sentry turret to power it up, but it was a sentry champion, so it blew up in his face. Never again. ETN is only able to send out those 4 drones temporarily because they run out of batteries. Should have used Energizer. Could have been like the bunny. Other monkeys have been injured by balloons like Saber Quincy, but most of them retired afterwards. The Bloon Master Alchemist wears those shades because he thinks they look cool and they double as great eye protection. It is not because he's blind. The reason Professor Evil isn't in Battles 2 is because he's so fixated on creating those crafty challenges in Battles 1 that he hasn't noticed the new game. As much as the game or blog may make it seem that monkeys only eat bananas, they also enjoy eating pineapples, candy, and sandwiches. Quincy is able to perfectly math out his shots to bounce from balloon to balloon out of pure talent. You'd think this would help him hit pink balloons, but I guess not. Monkeys are allowed to take breaks from fighting balloons. It makes them much more effective in combat once they come back. The engineer is always tinkering away, building other devices when he's not in battle. Canonically, the Prince of Darkness and Lich have similar strength magic. It's just different, which is why Lich can resurrect DDTs and ZMGs, whereas the Prince is limited to BFBs. In fact, in a head-to-head fight, Ninja Kiwi thinks that the Prince of Darkness would come out on top over Lich. Speaking of Lich, he's our best guess for who's behind the zombie balloons in Adventure Time TD. When he doesn't feel like talking, Churchill will slowly slide into his tank and shut the lid behind him. The Bloons are not always happy with each other. In fact, the ZOMG was pretty upset when the bad joined the gang. Per Ninja Kiwi, Adora's color suits her mood, meaning there may be more to her than just yellow or black. ETN gave Sentai Churchill that sci-fi drone. Churchill loves his coffee black but sweet, which I didn't know was a thing and I might have to try out. When a monkey gets upgraded, they stick with it to the end, meaning when you replace a boomerang's arm with a bionic one, they stay that way forever. The impoppable icon is just a sun avatar captured in the eerie green glow of battle. When asked why was it legal to pay $500 to sink a small town, Ninja Kiwi said, "How do you think Monkey Lantis came into existence?" But it turns out that that is just one theory on how Monkey Lantis came to be. The other is that it was once a great city on land, but in ancient times the ocean swallowed it whole. Striker is abnormally good at rock, paper, scissors, and no one knows if it's just luck or a lot of skill.
channel. Bloontonium, which is inside all balloons, is a highly dangerous substance only to be handled under high-level lab conditions. Part of the alchemist philosophy is that you might find gold in unlikely places, which is why they think it's a good idea to buff Benjamin when there's a Bloonjitsu ninja right there. When Oben's spirit attack disappear, it's not them dying or anything like that. It's just them returning to him to attack again. The ninja's kiwi has a real grudge against the kiwi fruit. The shattered ship in off the coast crashed because the captain was texting and sailing. The reason you get money when you pop balloons is because you've done a great service for all of monkeykind and you get rewarded appropriately. The balloons get stronger as the rounds go on for two reasons. The first is evolution, as they just get stronger with time. And the second is that there are balloon gyms popping up all over the place, advertising the likes of lead abs in just 15 minutes a day, fortified protein powders, ceramic boot camps, and much, much more. The balloon chipper just faded away with time, and most monkeys and heroes forgot about it. Except for the engineer. That thing was always in his shop. And if a hero saw a balloon chipper in person, they'd react similar to how a human does when they see an old car. Some people really love it, and others are indifferent. The reason bads and bosses are resistant to the Balloon Master Alchemist Shrinking Potion is because they're too big to be fully covered by it. Speaking of bads, Lich is unable to resurrect them because there's even a limit to his power. You can place tack shooters next to portable lakes because they're made of tack-resistant rubber. The reason balloons don't have this is because they don't have Dr. Monkey on their side. Quincy is the best athlete of all the heroes, though Sada is the fastest runner. Striker Jones is the biggest fan of sports games, and he even took Wii Tennis very seriously. Ninja Kiwi has talked about making a night mode theme in the past, but they haven't found enough time to do that yet. Have you ever wondered what lives are? Well, they're just the point where the battle is lost for the monkey. The dart monkey can trace its ancestry right back to the original balloon popping flash game sensation. Monkeys that can't pop frozen balloons are not fans of the ice monkey and even give it the cold shoulder sometimes. Bloonarius is so huge that he creates localized storm systems, mostly for dramatic effect. Churchill's tank is electric. Monkeys love to put bananas on their pizza, though this is usually reserved for dessert pizzas. If present-day monkeys met the classic ones from BTD 2 or earlier, the classics would be in awe of their descendants, and the present-day ones would respect their ancestors. Churchill has a huge underground bunker full of tanks other than the 3 that we see in-game. Oben is very sarcastic, to the point where it's hard to get a real answer out of him sometimes. Cats are the most common pet to have in Monkey City. And finally, because there's no room in their rubber or lead for nerf, the monkey in the map editor icon is Archie, and he oversees all building and construction done by players. Scoop is a good friend of Patch's, sometimes helping her with work, while not out exploring the world documenting wildlife. Bookworm's dragons are called Snaps, Terry, Chomp, and Gweaver. The Ultra Juggernaut doesn't care about being the only tier 5 dart monkey without a cool outfit. They really like having that unrestricted mobility. You'd think that acidic mixture dip would corrode darts or other projectiles, but all mixtures have been thoroughly tested before taken to the battlefield to make sure no weapons would corrode. Adora's temple was planned out using Legos, and she was even tempted to build the temple out of Legos to give the balloons an extra hazard to look out for. Ninja Kiwi stated that no heroes are married yet, but they declined to answer if any of them are dating. Switching the throwing arm of a bionic boomerang seems tricky when one arm is bionic, but some super smart wizards figured out a way to instantly mirror the boomerang's bionics when needed. Since cave monkeys exist, one could assume that there'd be a primal version of Bloons too. However, Patch dug through the files and could only find references to Bloons in their current form. There are other animals in the monkeyverse, but they don't all join the fight. Back in the BTD 5 days, the special agents were great examples of these. A lot of tech goes into the Spike factory, but there's no AI. Instead, there's a highly trained monkey in there doing the work. The monkeys use Bloontonium as a completely renewable power source. Once drained, Bloontonium becomes 100% recyclable in the monkey's green energy program. Unused income at the end of games gets put towards some great programs for young monkeys, like extracurricular education and sports programs. Sai loves every hero, but does complain about Gwen's cooking being a bit spicy from time to time. Patch and Pat have started an outreach program to help train cave monkeys on modern life in the village. Currently, they're a bit too distracted to make progress, but hopefully we'll be able to upgrade them one day. Brickle is a fully certified lifeguard and has undergone extensive training. The monkey who slides down the water park slide is completely fine. They're a trained stunt monkey and can easily go over a pile of spikes with no injuries. Some wizards and druids are born with magic, while others learn it. However, not all monkeys born with wizardly or druidic essence pursue those jobs. Even with FaZe being an incredibly powerful balloon, Bloonarius still holds the title of leader, as FaZe can be a bit hard to pin down for important boss meetings. Speaking of FaZe, we are unsure surface 2 separate balloons, a spatial mirror, an attached alternate universe version, a balloon moving so rapidly that it appears in 2 spots, or something else. Engineers can theoretically cluster an infinite number of sentries in one spot, though this would require sentries to have an infinite lifespan. Zai loves iced tea, especially when it's flavored. Monkeys do not get claustrophobic when grouped in a tight space. It's as close as they can get to a snuggly pat hug without him being there. ZOMGs love floating, drawing skulls, and playing in death metal bands. Monkeys have described being radar jammed by FaZe as having a temporary blind spot. We know that FaZe comes from the Chaos Rift, but little is known about it. The MIB said that the Rift seems to be one part of a gateway. It's unknown how many parts total or where they are though. Additionally, the Chaos Rift is somewhere between an alternate reality and the future. Whatever that means. Shino is Sada's favorite Animal Crossing character. Speaking of Sada, she's the best hero at mixed martial arts, but she prefers to use her swords. Churchill has 2 massive collections of manga. The first is a variety of his favorites that he shares with other heroes, and the second is a huge stack all about himself. He is nice though. He gives out signed copies to all his fans. Phoenixes are originally from the Plane of Fire, but they have adapted to the Blooniverse and are now able to be found where the wizards are. As for the Plane of Fire itself, it's a realm of heat, flames, lava, and magical brass cities, home to all sorts of fantastic fire-based creatures such as the mighty phoenix. Monkeys love to read, but the hungry caterpillar is a classic choice for young aspiring heroes. Ezili, Ben, Gwen, and Churchill love the warm sun and are always looking forward to planning the next beach day. Quincy has quietly been practicing the Vuvuzela in his spare time. Ezili's favorite thing to do when not popping balloons or playing with her cats is scrapbooking. Who would have thought? Boss balloons are sneaky. They're always lurking around somewhere, waiting for the best time to strike. There may even be undiscovered ones that we've never seen. Heroes are all different sizes and ages, but Quincy, Gwen, Striker, and Oben were the first graduating class of heroes for BTD6. The Mob Glue's gun is double-barreled because the glue is so strong it needs to be kept separate until it's ready to stick something down. Pat's least favorite chore is making the bed. He'd much rather sleep in a giant blanket pile. So would I, Pat. So would I. Most worn hero capes are damaged ones from battle, although Geraldo might know where to get a pristine one. Have you ever wondered what happened to the monkeys when the ice melts under them on the map Erosion? Well, they just make their way back to HQ for some hot showers and a nice meal. One of Lifeguard Brickle's fleet is always hanging around just outside the combat zone for any stragglers that need help. Gwen lost in a cook-off once due to unfortunate circumstances. The winner turned out to be Monkey Fieri, a quite well-known restaurateur in the Blooniverse. He just had the secret fire to his entry that helped sway the judges. Glue gunners use colorful glue like yellow and pink to make it easier for their fellow monkeys to see the glued balloons. Monkeys get their birthday off if they request it, though most of the partying happens once the fighting is done for the day, as the rest of the monkeys come over for cake and celebration. Scoop was the editor and photographer of the yearbook for his final year in high school. If Ezili became president, there'd be free cats for everyone. Can paragons separate? Well, scientists, wizards, and engineers have a process to separate the fused monkeys, but it's still in its early stages and takes quite a while, but they're working on a more efficient solution. New maps in BTD6 are just areas that haven't been explored, discovered, or sometimes areas that just haven't seen the Bloon forces before. Quincy took inspiration from glaive ricochets when learning how to make his arrows balance from balloon to balloon. The training to become an ice monkey involves a lot of time in freezers, working on ice, cold, or snow-related puns, and ideally a trip to visit polar bears in the North Pole. Sai discovered their powers through careful meditation and training, and accidentally moving their toys as a toddler. Beast handlers respect the honorable creature known as the duck, who can fly, swim, and walk. There are teams all over the world looking for lost monkeys like the cave monkey. Quite a few have been found, though some complain about being woken up and roll back over to nap. Here's some deep tax zone lore. Some crazy monkey adopted a hedgehog and thought how cool it would be to shoot all those spikes out super fast. And thus, the tag zone was conceived. The in-universe explanation of the map editor is that architects are always designing new areas for monkeys to play, learn, and grow. We use specialized building materials and programs to plan out features and attack routes for possible Bloon invasions. If you want to become a hero, Patch has quarterly hero signups. Be warned though, you have to have a particular set of skills acquired over a very long career, skills that make you a nightmare for the balloons. Unfortunately, Archie will not become a hero for us to play. He's just
just way too busy helping build maps. Canonically, reverse mode is the Bloons' attempt at a sneak attack by hitting us in the rear. Monkeys absolutely love Sushi Ben's sushi, especially when he experiments with new flavors and seasonings. We have to play on half cash to get black borders because the monkeys need to train under all circumstances, including having reduced resources. The map editor parts are fabricated in a huge facility, but Archie supervises their construction out in the training grounds. He's very impressed with the ingenuity you all have. Gwendolyn tries to avoid any extra sugar like those found in energy drinks as she's so full of energy already. Monkeys found out about paragons because their R&D department is always finding new strategies and inventions to try. With a little assistance from the wizards, they discovered this way to make an ultimate form. And finally, Al, the Bloon Chippers engineer, and Archie are not related, but they admire each other's work. Archie even went to Al's retirement party.